Now time for us to look at what the papers are reporting this morning. First, we have a peek through. The Nation newspaper is the first with the banner headline, APC kicks off Congress's convention. Convention plans Monday. Governors okay schedule after meeting with NWC. And Blueprint newspaper, terrorism, federal government to engage military retirees, reclaim ungoverned spaces. Defense minister, 2 Kwara local governments impose 24-hour curfew on communities. The Nigerian Air Force begins probe into alleged bombing of civilians in Niger. Next is the Daily Trust. Electoral bill delay fuels uncertainty ahead of 2027. Next is this Nigeria 2027 electronic transmission of results to be made compulsory. National Assembly proposes new law compelling INEC to transmit results from polling units to IREV. Next is Leadership newspaper. 2027 Kano APC Ganduje clash with Kwankwaso over Yusuf. And Nigerian News Direct. Local government crisis. Adeleke Oyetola trade blame over withheld funds. Secretariat siege. Your frivolous lawsuits responsible for delay in local government funds. That's according to Oyetola. And then stop using federal cover for lawlessness. Adeleke. Next is the Platform Times. Oil Island war brews between Ondo as reps intervene. Next is Nigerian Tribune. Man laments energy cost as Peter Obi knocks Tinubu over electricity stability. More than 676.6 billion naira spent on alternate energy cost in first half of 2025. That's according to manufacturers. The Punch newspaper, outrage over police crackdown on Lagos anti-demolition protesters. Police tear gas protesters at Lagos Assembly, make arrests, activists, rights groups, slam police. And the Help newspaper, federal government launches $250 million climate scheme to rehabilitate displaced Nigerians. And last but not least is the Sport Alive. January transfer, Fenerbahce in Italy for Lukman. And then Sevilla slap 30 million euros on Akor Adams. Talk about a Saudi Pro League interest source. All right, then I'll be doing this with my colleagues, Etoma, Olamide, and indeed our in-house analyst, Biodun Shomi. I'll start off with you, Etoma, looking at the APC kicking off Congress's convention plans on Monday, and governors actually schedule after meeting with NWC. So we see how interesting this is going to be, because the commencement, they're talking about Monday, February the 2nd, and then there will be the ward and local government congresses, to the state congress, the zonal congress, and then which will now culminate to the national convention. But there is a big fish for the APC to fry because of the defections that we witnessed over time. So alignment and realignment within the party will start in earnest.
Well, that will make it very interesting. The political space in APC is going to be quite interesting. But when I saw that headline, the first thing that hit my mind is that what do they have that they can follow their timetable without a headache?
That's right.
And it is something other parties are finding so difficult to do. Look at the PDP convention, for example. It was one lawsuit after another lawsuit, one abuse.
To the extent that somebody termed it as a WhatsApp group.
One problem after another, right. Left, right, and center. But APC has just rolled out the dates for the several congresses.
That's right.
The governors have accepted, and things are going to move smoothly. What is it that APC has that those other political parties do not have? Maybe they should learn.
Absolutely.
And do their things the way APC is doing. Yeah. But for the influx of so many decampees into APC, as I said earlier on, it's just going to make the politics really interesting. That's right. And then we've actually, what we just need to do is grab our popcorn and then see how the drama unfolds. Yeah. So, but part of the things that the APC, according to what Thomas said, is that what exactly are the things they're putting in place to ensure that there is no problem? They've been touting the electronic registration of members
We are not doing the manual. We are doing electronic registration. They also plan to manage defections and internal harmony. Talk about internal democracy, and this is very germane to the success of it.
Absolutely. With what national congresses, I believe, are commencing on Monday, and the e-registration to join APC is effectively ending. And so the party is locking in its internal structures ahead of the 2027 elections. When we look at the convention, it's heavily backed by APC governors and the NWC. And so how smoothly the convention and the internal elections run will determine APC's strength going into the polls. I must say, when we juxtapose this with how we watched PDP struggle to put together a basic convention, I'm really hoping that
basic.
It was a basic convention. They couldn't even hold an event, if I'm allowed to say that. So when we juxtapose that, it'll tell us everything we need to know. But essentially, APC is locking in their internal structures ahead of 2027 polls.
Absolutely. Mr. Showmi, you've been following developments in different parties, the ADC, the Labour Party, the PDP, vis-a-vis, which we'll now talk about, the APC, who are planning, their own national convention altogether. How do you think the fact that we have, I think they now boast of 29 governors, from across the nation. So the rest 7 of them, shared among the opposition, but we still see some are still planning to join in the APC. Do you think it is very, very easy to manage crisis with the internal democracy that the APC, or internal crisis mechanism that they have in the APC?
Oh yeah, obviously. I mean, there is an inherent risk if you have about 30 political governors. There is an inherent risk of people being dissatisfied one way or the other, because there were people holding offices within the APC before those governors came. So no doubt about that. But what we have seen so far is the ability to manage the issues, the transition, from one party to the other. If you remember clearly, one of the major issues which PDP had was over their convention was the idea that the people who were thrown up as leaders did not go through any convention, state convention, or through any World Congress. Those were part of the issues that led to the division in PDP till today that they are in court. So what it clearly shows is that their inability to manage the process, that is the problem, to respect your own law, respect your constitution, and comply with it. It's as simple as that. The moment you start, violating your own rules, it becomes a problem. We've seen it in APC, when APC leadership affirmed the fact that the governor in every state is the leader of the party. It does not mean that there are no other leaders within that state. It's a kind of a collegiate system, but affirming that the governor, the sitting governor, it's the #1 leader within that state. So they've been able to work on that. If you also notice, just yesterday, they had a meeting with the governors, the National Working Committee. Part of the issues they're looking at includes this issue of what congresses, convention, what will be the spillover effect. They are not using their own registration like it was done by the PDP in I think 2003 or 4 something, when they actually use it as an opportunity to weed out people who are opposed to the Obasanjo's administration at that time. But that's not what APC is doing. They're actually using it to expand, their membership base, while at the same time attract the youth. So they've been looking at different issues, and I think they are handling it very well. It's most unlikely there will be crisis, after the national convention.
That's right. All right, then let's move on to the Blueprint newspaper. Itoma, if you look at the blueprints, it's talking about fight against terrorism, federal government to engage military retirees, reclaim ungoverned spaces. That's according to defense ministers. And we see 2 Kwara local governments impose 24-hour curfew on communities. They said, once a soldier, always a soldier. We thought when people retired, and they are referred to as veterans, they are still called upon to come and save the integrity or the sovereignty of the Nigerian nation. How does it feel when, you were never a soldier anyway. But how do you think
you escaped?
But you are a soldier. You are a soldier in one way. No, you are a soldier in one way, because all of us seated here this morning, we are soldiers, because we also are always in the front lines. When you remember the pandemic.
That was a very nice save.
No, of course, we are always in the front line. So we are partners in progress.
Okay, let's go to the issue at hand.
That's right.
I have always been one of those that believe that allowing retired soldiers to just go home and hibernate is a waste of resources. I have always believed that, that the present Minister of Defense is going there to pick their brains to solve the problem at hand is something I expected other ministers to have done.
That's right.
You know, so this is a very good move, by my reckoning. It is a very good move. There are a lot of soldiers there that have had individual experiences in different places all around the world that will help in settling this thing. So for me, good move, encouraged, and let's hope that the results come out positively.
Absolutely. If you look at the Daily Trust, Olamide, let's move on to the Daily Trust, has the same with this Nigeria, talking about the election, the 2027 election. It's saying electoral bill, according to Daily Trust, electoral bill delay fuels uncertainty ahead 2027. And this Nigeria is saying 2027 electronic transmission of results to be made compulsory. So much so that National Assembly now proposes new law compelling INEC to transmit results from polling units to IREV, no mistakes, and slams 5 million naira fine on vote trading, and even 10-year prison. That's what they are proposing, 10-year prison sentence for anyone who fails to upload results onto the IREV. It's one thing to conduct elections, another battle for you to ensure that, as an official, I just must get it right.
Those are very stringent measures being put in place. They fine the prison time, and right. I really do commend it. But this delay that we're seeing with the passing of the Electoral Amendment Bill is very, very worrying, because Nigeria's legal framework, it is pertinent that it is ready ahead of 2027. That's right. When you have a delay in the legal framework, in the passing of the laws that matter in terms of elections, you're slowing down INEC, you're slowing down INEC's technology, INEC's timelines, INEC's procedures, and you're making it impossible for them to plan ahead, and you're giving Josh or you're putting him on a ticking clock and saying, right. So everything has to be set in place for 2027, and rightly so. I want to see that put in place. Let's make our next job easier for them. Before we even talk about going to the polls and the fines that vote buying or electoral rigging will get, whatever the case may be, the first line of action is policy, and that's what we want with the passing of the Electoral Amendment Bill. Absolutely.
Let's move on to politics, Mr. Show me. If you look at the leadership newspaper, it's saying 2027, Kano APC, Ganduje clash with Kwankwaso over Yusuf. Kwankwaso has been saying that we rescued the Kano State from the APC, and then Abba Yusuf just carried it on his head and dumped it back to the APC. Even though the APC, according to Ganduje, they've actually promised him. The reason it delayed, so to speak, it delayed is defection to the APC was to ensure that they got a written document stating that, listen, you're going to field me as a candidate for 2027, governorship candidate, returning back to my position. But Kwankwaso, Ganduje also said Kwankwaso, if he eventually joins the APC, it will be like, he used the word madman, but I think the right word, not the right word, but then the saying is usually like a dog taking back his vomit.
Oh, look. If you actually look at what happened in Kano State, it's so very, very interesting. It took Yusuf some time to the camp, simply because a lot of issues had to be sorted out behind the scene. Kwankwaso overplayed his hands. He was trying to negotiate issues around his own interest. But at the same time, Yusuf had a business, because he suspected, probably NNPP would not give him a ticket, a return ticket. And don't forget there were cases in court, left, right, and center. So he decided to ensure that, look, even though he had no personal disagreement with Kwankwaso, but he had to take care of certain things. And those things were taken care of. If you notice, when Ganduje came back, there was a reference to the issue of 60-40, which he deliberately sidestepped. That is, a lot of things have been worked out.
That's right.
You have 60% as the sitting governor, the existing leadership, Ganduje and others, will hold on to 40%. So there is most unlikely going to be any crisis. Then again, if you look at the percentage, the last election, NNPP defeated APC just by under 7%. APC had 45% of the vote, NNPP 51% point something, of the vote. And so the margin of victory is so small that the defection of Yusuf will most likely tilt it in favor of APC if elections were to be held. At any point in time. So Kwankwaso and others are still reeling from it. Now, the issue is, where do they go next? Is it ADC to go and fight for what article controls ADC?
That's
is
right.
its property.
That's right.
So where?
And
So
the Labour Party is factionalized
so
as we
most
speak.
unlikely, I will not be surprised if in the nearest future, Kwankwaso decides
Settles
to either come to APC or stay with NMP.
Mr. Shomi,
As it
everyone
stands.
talks about starting a political podcast, and we would watch.
All right, then let's move on very quickly. Nigerian News Direct says local government crisis. Adeleke Oyetola trade blame over withheld funds. Secretariat siege. You see the forth and back. Between the former governor and the incumbent governor, saying that okay, there was a time even the court actually dismissed the fact that Attorney General of the current Attorney General in Kano State went to court over this seized fund, and they said no. The local councils are autonomous, so you can't, intervene in that regard. But what do you see? Forth and back, who are being affected are those who are supposed to receive their salaries, the civil servants.
You see, when two elephants fight, it's a cliche, but in a lot of cases, it becomes apt to use that cliche.
That's right.
That when two elephants fight, the grass suffers. Bottom line for the average person in Osun State that works with the local government, that lives in Osun State, is that, look, monies should go to somewhere. So the monies trickle down. So our economic activities can go on. So our life is easier to live. Now, when politicians sit in between that and the freedom or, let me say, the emancipation of the people, I find it a little bit dicey. So right now, for me, I am not supporting any of them. Absolutely.
Olamide, let's go to the Platform Times. And I also want Mr. Shomi to also weigh in on this matter, as probably we're going to end on that note. Olamide, if you look at the Platform Times, it's saying Oil Island war brews between Ondo as reps intervene. This issue of forth and back, Ogun State is claiming that, according to the Colonial Gazette of 1950 or thereabouts, that area belongs to the Ogun water side. I think it's the Ogun water side or so. And then Ondo is saying, no, it has been occupied age-long by the Ilaje people, and the Ilajes belong to the Ondo State. So one thing has to be done. Because oil is involved, we need to salvage the situation before it gets down to insecurity issues where you have people fighting themselves over this.
Absolutely. When we look at it, first of all, it's very worrisome that we're still following a colonial gazette. Yeah. There should be modern day law and modern day law policy being put in place to avoid these sorts of things. The colonial masters are the ones that created those demarcations in the first place. They have to see themselves as a unified front. These are southwestern states. They have to see themselves as a unified front. These are fights that the colonial masters put in place, and we are essentially engaging in neocolonialism by continuing this fight.
Absolutely. You're very, invested when it comes to Ogun State affairs, politics, and governance. How do you understand this very quickly?
Oh, absolutely. The land belongs to Ogun State government. The argument of Ondo State government is that Ilaje people are the one living there.
That's right.
And for some reason, in the past, Ogun State government refused to invest in infrastructure. That is the truth of the matter, in that area. So Ondo State government was doing it. But in reality, the land actually belongs to Ogun State government. And that's the major issue here. So whose land? If you live on my land, does it mean that that land will transfer to you simply because you provided some infrastructure in that place? So that is why Ogun State government is contesting it, and Ondo State government is saying no. Oil is also involved, we all know that, but the bottom line at the end of the day is that this will be resolved.
Hopefully we see that this is resolved, in earnest, because one thing is we do not want to see, community members, they've been family, over the years, fighting over what should be what should be common, patrimony, for all of them, to share and benefit the Nigerian nation. I believe that's about it for the newspapers of